Gary Card, and today we're going to be doing our top 5 PS2 games. Now the PS2 is actually one of my favorite consoles. Actually, it's probably my favorite console, so I'm pretty excited to be doing this video. I have a bit more experience with PS2 because that was my primary console back in the day, as opposed to Darrian, who he had a PS2, an Xbox, a GameCube, but
I had it all.
He had it all.
I had it all.
Yeah, but that was really my primary console, and it's still my favorite console. Released back in 2001, retailed for $2.99.
What a deal! What a deal!
And it was really the first console I really got into. I had PlayStation before that, but PS2 was really what really got me into gaming, so I'm excited to do this video.
Yeah. My experience with the PS2, like Alex said, I had the PS2, I had the Xbox, and I had the GameCube. So I usually only really played sports titles and stuff like that. The PS2 was kind of more for like when people came over. We would play like Madden, wrestling, like Star Wars games, old Medal of Honor games, stuff like that. I usually saved my RPG games for the Xbox and then had a lot of Nintendo titles. So that's where most of my time was, but I did play a whole bunch of the really good games for the PS2. I just didn't really get into like the good PS2 exclusive titles. So we're gonna start off with some honorable mentions for the PlayStation 2. These could be games that maybe we liked, they just didn't make the top 5, or maybe there's some games that we played on different consoles that were also ported over to the PS2, and maybe we preferred them on the other console, or we just really get into them because we had already played them. So I'm gonna go ahead and start it off. I'm gonna give GTA San Andreas on there. I never really beat it. I would just fly around on a moped shooting people with 5 stars. Resident Evil 4, I played that on the GameCube before I played it on the PS2. It's a little bit better on the GameCube. Deus Ex Conspiracy Theory, I actually played that game on the PC first.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite games of all time, but I don't know, I just didn't really play it when I had it for the PS2 because I'd already played it on the computer. And then I'm also going to give Bully a nice one in there. It was cool. It was a pretty fun game. And it just kind of got edged out by a couple other games.
Yeah, it was an interesting concept. It was a Rockstar game that took place like in a school.
Yeah.
Which I never got around to playing it, but
it was pretty good. But like if I had to pick between that and another Rockstar game like GTA, like you can kill people in GTA.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can kill hookers in GTA. You can just beat up nerds, and then if you're out too, like you fall asleep and get mugged for your clothes.
Yeah, I'd much rather kill hookers.
Yeah.
So I have a few honorable mentions. Again, just a few ones I got nudged out because there's such a large library for the PS2 in my opinion. So I'm just gonna go through. Start with Persona 3. Very, very solid RPG. It took the Persona series and sort of brought it to a new modern level. It's kind of a milestone for the series. One of the best like monster collecting aspects, and one of the best endings and final acts to an RPG. I'm a big fan of Persona 5, which I might do a discussion or a review at some point for PS4. But yeah, Persona 3 definitely. Gran Turismo 4. I'm not a huge racing game fan, but Gran Turismo is one of the series that I really fell in love with. Because it's not like a typical racing game, it's like a simulation.
Yeah. And
it was pretty groundbreaking back in its early days.
Yeah, I'm terrible at racing games, so I never really gave that game a chance.
Definitely, it has a learning curve, but it's one of my favorites. And then Rogue Galaxy was another really good RPG. Those would be my honorable mentions.
Okay, so number 5 on my list is going to be Jak 2. It did have one game before, which was Jak and Daxter, and then I think I had a couple games after. It was Jak 3.
It had to be spin-offs.
And then Jak X something racing was like a pod racing type game. Jak 2 was really fun for me. I love the part of Jak being like a unvoiced character in the first game, and then him becoming like this weird demonic badass in the second game. So I really enjoyed that game. I remember getting lost in it all the time because I would never pay attention to like the objectives and stuff. I'd be riding around on like the cool little things, and then I'd get lost in the city, and then I'd stop playing it for a week because I'd be so angry, and then I'd get back to playing it. But it had a really good story. Daxter's probably one of the best side characters ever. Yeah, see, the Jak and Daxter series is one that everybody always liked, but I never got around to playing. And it's probably a game that
that I would
It's
like.
pretty fun. It's pretty fun. It kind of starts a little bit slow, but then when you get into using his dark demon powers and stuff like that and going throughout the story, it actually gets pretty fun. It was a pretty good game. That's why it's number 5 on my list.
Yep. So number 5 for me, and it was very hard for me to narrow it down to 5, but number 5 I will have to give to Silent Hill 2. Now, in my opinion, Silent Hill 2 is, as far as survival horror goes, the best survival horror game ever made, in my opinion. It's terrifying. It's terrifying. It has some of the most iconic enemies. It has one of the most atmospheric settings in a video game I've ever played. Like around that time, Resident Evil was big, and Resident Evil was sort of like, it was a take on like American horror made by Japanese developers, and then Silent Hill was more like Japanese horror, which in my opinion is a lot more. It's less like action-y jump scare stuff and much more like twisted psychological.
A lot more terrifying. Because I remember watching my aunt play Silent Hill 2 on the PS2, and I was terrified. I was completely scared.
Yeah.
And that's the one with the guys with the giant pyramid head.
Yeah, that was the first appearance of the pyramid head.
Oh my god, I remember the part where he breaks the kid's neck.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was terrifying.
Yeah. It's Pyramid Head ended up being one of the most iconic survival horror enemies.
And I'm not I've never played a Silent Hill game all the way through, and I know Pyramid Head. I know as soon as I see it, I'm like, that's a Silent Hill guy.
Yeah.
That's a character from that game.
These days, the game is starting to show its age. Its controls are clunky. The voice acting is actually pretty bad. But at its core, the story is fantastic and eerie and just weird. Like, it stuck with me even today. And it's the scariest game I've ever played.
Okay, so for my number 4 game, I am going to put Ark the Lad, Twilight Spirits. It is actually a game I watched my mom play before I actually played it. My mom is actually a pretty big PlayStation RPG fan. She's played all the Final Fantasy games, Ark the Lad, Dark Cloud, stuff like that. So this is a game I actually saw her playing, and when she beat it, I decided to pick it up and play it. And it's probably the only RPG game I got really into on the PS2 for some reason. You're essentially playing as 2 brothers. One is the king of the demons, one is like kind of like the king of the humans, and they both want to destroy each other.
Yeah, there are two main characters, and you sort of transition between them.
Which I really like that in games.
Yeah.
I like being able to switch between one character in one half the game and then go back to the other one. And of course, they're brothers, they're on different sides, so of course there's going to be a common goal at the end, and then they're going to make a peace treaty. But it was really fun. It's a tactical RPG game, so you have the grid where you can move around, and you can you have other people that you have on your team, and you kind of strategize on how you're going to take out the bosses and the henchmen, and you can find things throughout the map. So it was a pretty fun game, and it had a pretty good ending too. It kind of left it open-ended to go into the final game, which was, I believe, it was like In the Darkness. So it was a pretty fun tactical RPG game. And I'm not a big tactical RPG
I'm not either, but I remember Ark the Lad, Twilight of the Spirits. It was, aside from maybe like Suikoden, if you ever played Suikoden, another strategy RPG, the best on the console, I think, because I'm a big fan of like Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah.
And this game was a really, really good strategy RPG.
Yeah. So that's why it's number 4 on my list.
Okay, so number 4 on my list is really a really unique game in gameplay, in art design, in art style, graphics. Have to be Okami. Now this game, it got a re-release on PS3, and then it got another re-release on Wii as well, but it was originally on PS2. In this game, essentially the aesthetics are like, it's basically like an oil painting, like the whole game. The animations, the looks of the graphics and everything, it looks like a painting. And one of the big gameplay features is that like the way you attack is you actually it's like on a canvas, and you like do different like brush strokes, and it will like do different attacks.
Yeah.
Did you ever play Okami?
I played a little bit of it on the Wii version. It wasn't good, so I didn't really give it a fair chance.
Yeah. It has a really good story. It has one of the most unique combat systems of any RPG I've ever played, because it's literally just like you paint to attack.
Yeah.
And everything just comes together. It's really, really cool. If you have an opportunity to play it on PS3, I would do that, because the HD version obviously is going to be better.
Yeah.
Higher frame rate and everything. It's a really, really good game. One of my favorites. If you get a chance to play it on PS3, absolutely go for it. So yeah, that's number 4 on my list.
Okay, so number 3 on my list is actually Prince of Persia: Sand of Time. I remember, I think I got this game 3 years after it came out, so I was really late to it, but I really liked it for whatever reason. I love the whole aspect of using the sand to slow down and fight people. I got all the way through it, but for whatever reason, I'm drawing a blank on the majority of the story. I remember I replayed it on PlayStation 3 when that HD collection came out. On the PS2, I think they had like the best, like, what would you consider, like a open world, like puzzle type adventure game?
I would say it falls in action adventure.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. PS2 had some of the best action adventure games for that time. It was just really fun. I really liked the just like the combat was really fun to me. Using the sand, like I said, to like if you f***ed up, you use the sand in reverse. I remember trying to jump to certain parts, and for whatever reason, my 11-year-old self couldn't do it. So I had to keep using my sand to reverse it, and it was just a pretty fun game. So that's why I got it number 3 on my list.
All right, so number 3 on my list would have to be Final Fantasy X. Now this game is one of my favorite RPGs of all time. It was a bit of a departure from the standard Final Fantasy formula because it moved from the active time battle that you'll find in like Final Fantasy 6, 7, 8, and moved it into a fully turn-based battle system. It was one of my favorite battle systems. It's called, I think, conditional turn-based, and it basically the actions that you do changes the order of who gets to go like next. The battle system was fantastic. The leveling system with the sphere grid, a lot of people had a problem with it. I liked it because you can really customize all your characters and have them take whatever paths you want them to take. And then the story, like, some of the characters are a little grating, but the story overall, and especially the ending of the game, is one of my favorites in any game I've ever played. It's extremely memorable. I first played it when I was like 8 years old, and I've replayed it a few times since then. And this is another game that had a couple re-releases on PS3 and PS4.
Yep.
So again, if you are interested in really solid RPGs, really good stories, really good battle systems, I would definitely check it out on one of the remastered editions. It's just one of the best games of all time in my opinion, and that is why it's number 3.
Bitch! So number 2 on my list is going to be Kingdom Hearts. I think this is a no-brainer for most people. It's one of the greatest PlayStation 2 games ever made.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's when you can mix in a Final Fantasy type game and you mix it in with Disney characters, you got gold. It was so good.
It's such a unique idea.
Yeah.
For a premise. Did you know how they came up with that idea?
It didn't.
In the old day, back in 1999, 2000, Square Enix of Japan and Disney of Japan shared the same office building, and one of the directors of Final Fantasy ended up in an elevator with one of the Disney executives, and they got in this conversation about collaborating, and it sort of went from there, and it was this idea that was very, very unique, and it doesn't seem like it would be able to work, but it works really well.
Yeah, it's crazy how great this series was. And I know a lot of people are waiting on the third game to come out. Oh my god, taking forever. Everyone's waiting, but the first one, I prefer this one much more than the second one. The second one to me isn't as good. Maybe it's just because you kind of get like the effects of the first one, where it's something so unique and rare to come out, and it kind of maybe the first one had like a bigger impact on more people.
Yes.
But you play as just some of your favorite Disney. I used to have all the Disney movies as a kid on VHS. So being able to play as Simba, or with Simba from Lion King, Hercules probably had the best board in Kingdom Hearts in my opinion. And then I love, because I wasn't big on Final Fantasy, so when they introduced the Final Fantasy characters, I remember just thinking that they were all so badass and cool. I'm just like, dang, who is this guy with the giant sword?
Yeah,
the sword is so cool, and then it ends up being Cloud.
It's interesting seeing Cloud and Mickey Mouse in the same game. Like now we're just kind of used to it, but back then it was like, wow, this is something really special and unique, and I do prefer.
Yeah, think about how far-fetched that sounds.
Yeah,
you should play a game that has Mickey Mouse and Cloud fighting,
and it works.
Yeah, and it works. So combat, so good.
One of the best action RPGs ever.
Yeah, and I loved how you were kind of able to go off on your own. You can go into a world that, and maybe the enemies were going to be a little overpowered, so you'd have to be like, okay, I'm not ready for this one, and you'd have to leave, go to a different world, and it worked so well because it didn't hold your hand most of the time. So you'd have to figure it out, and like I said, you have Kingdom Hearts 2, which is a really good one. I really enjoyed Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories on the Game Boy Advance. That was a pretty good spin-off of that game. And then
there was one for PSP, Birth by Sleep, which it was just like a full-fledged Kingdom Hearts game on PSP. I really liked it.
Yeah, it's so good, and the only thing I don't like about the Kingdom Hearts series is they keep redoing the remakes. HD remake, blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
and it's
2.8 Final Cut Extended Ultra Version Deluxe Remix.
Yeah, and it's cool that you're able to play it on the PS4 and PS3, but we want Kingdom Hearts 3, so that's why I put Kingdom Hearts 1 as number 2 on my list.
Alright, so number 2 on my list is a game that is still one of the most visually awe-inspiring games of all time, in my opinion, and that would be Shadow of the Colossus. This game is essentially, there are 16 enemies total in the entire game. They're all bosses, which at the time was a pretty unique idea, and when I first heard about it, I was like, is this really going to work? But then each boss, I'm sure, as you know, are these giant colossi, these giant, either they're giants on 2 legs, or like giant birds, or like giant flying serpents, and each boss is this multifaceted puzzle where you have to scale them, you have to know exactly what you have to do, you have to analyze their attack patterns, and each boss is a different stage, because they're just so enormous. And I remember playing this game on PS2 and just the graphics blew me away. It's one of the best looking PS2 games.
Yeah, I remember watching my dad play it. I was like, wow, this is a pretty good looking game.
Yeah, and very minimalistic story. Essentially, you're this guy who brings this girl to this forbidden land, and you have to. There's this saying that you can kill these 16 colossi and you can bring somebody back to life, and that's basically the entire story. But the ending is one of the most emotional endings I've ever played in a video game.
Yeah.
It just fantastic gameplay, very unique idea, very good story. Just nothing really I can complain about with that game. So that's why it's number 2.
Okay, so coming in at number 1 on my list is God of War 2. God of War is such a great, oh my god, such a great series. The first one was pretty groundbreaking in the combat, and then how you essentially level up your different skills and stuff like that. I remember playing the first one, and you get into that final battle with Hay, and then
It was Ares.
Ares. I have my Greek mythology all messed up.
Yeah.
You get into the fight with Ares, and you're just messing dude up. And, oh my god! And then you start the second one, and then you just get screwed over royally. And then there's that opening scene where you're climbing out of hell. You know that Kratos he's going to be on some stuff in the entire game, and it just does not slow down from that point. You're just exacting your revenge on the gods. You're just slaying people. Oh man.
I remember playing the first one as a kid, and I just remember, I had never seen anything like it. I was like, this game is brutal.
Yes.
It is just so brutal. Kratos is just one of maybe the most brutal character that I've ever seen in a game. He does not around.
He is a badass in the sense of everything. He just, and then you get into the cut scenes where he's killing people, and it's just so brutal. It's so brutal how he kills people.
Yeah.
I know in God of War 3, one of my favorite moments is where he just, is it Icarus?
I think he's fighting Poseidon.
Yeah, Poseidon. He just takes him and he just shoves his f***ing thumbs. He shoves his thumbs into his eyes and kills him.
You have to click in the analog sticks.
Yeah.
And it's you're
Yeah, and one of my favorite parts of the entire series is when you find the Greek ladies that you can have sex with and you have to play the minigame.
Yeah, I remember in the end.
I remember I would have to close my door when I would do that, so my mom didn't walk in and be just having sex with a whole bunch of random Greek hookers.
I would always have to my dad came home one day while I was playing it right when I was doing the sex minigame, and I was like, oh, I had to turn the console off I'm like, well, I didn't see that coming.
Oh man, it's so good. The combat is just so good, and it has a really good story. And oh man, it's so satisfying when you get into the end of the third game because you're kind of just like, hey, this is what everybody gets. And with the new one coming out, pretty hyped up for that. That one looks pretty cool.
It doesn't have Kratos in it, correct? It's like a reboot.
I think the character's name is still Kratos. It just goes
Okay.
into a different mythology.
It's not Greek mythology, right?
No, it's like Nordic.
Something. Yeah, I think you're right.
So I'm pretty sure that you still play as Kratos. It's still going to be his name. It's just
Like a different universe.
yeah. So I'm pretty pumped for that one. So that's why it's number one. Just a really good game. I remember putting a lot of hours into it. This is actually one of the few games where I would beat it and then I would turn up the difficulty and play it again. I usually never do that with any game. This one is just really satisfying. I love the combat of it. That's why it's number one on my list. Just such a great game and one of the greatest titles that I've probably ever played.
Alright, so number one on my list is, it just happens to be my favorite game of all time. And that is Metal Gear Solid 3, particularly Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence. But this game is, I can talk about it for hours. It's a stealth action game for everyone who is familiar with Metal Gear Solid. You know the drill about that. Basically, avoiding enemies and just trying to get through killing as few enemies as possible. But there's so much more to it than that. It has one of the most engrossing stories in a video game I've ever played. The antagonist it might be my favorite in a video game. And there's just so much attention to detail. There's a boss called the End, and he's like this really old sniper. And there are actually these little Easter eggs, like where you can get into the encounter with this boss, and then you can turn your console off, and then like set the clock forward, and then load your game back up, and he'll like have died of old age. There's like little things like that just Hideo Kojima, the creator of the series, thinks of these things, and nobody else really.
He has a really good eye for detail and attention. It's such weird stuff.
Yeah.
Like this probably that's one of the best series that has like the best Easter eggs in it.
Yes.
It's like something that you wouldn't think about, and then someone would figure it out, and you're like, wow, that's pretty smart for a game.
Yeah, there's so many things like that. There's a boss fight where the guy's basically undead, and you have to go to like the afterlife to fight him. And every single enemy you've killed comes back like as a ghost to try to kill you in that fight. So like everyone that you kill comes back and tries to kill you, which is pretty interesting. One of the best final acts to a game I've ever played. It's so cinematic, like it basically feels like you're playing a movie.
Yeah.
But it's not super like quick timing or anything. Like a lot of games go for cinematic, but you lose control.
Yeah.
This game you have full control and it just plays like a movie. It plays kind of like a Bond film.
Yeah.
But the story is just, there's so many twists and turns, and by the end of it, when you watch like the final cutscene, there's like one final like duel at the end, and then there's like a final cutscene, and you're just like blown away. It's very emotional, very heartbreaking, but it's so good. So many reasons that it's my favorite game. Not only my favorite PS2 game, but my favorite game of all time. So that is why Metal Gear Solid 3 is my number one.
Okay, guys, so that is our respective top 5 PlayStation 2 games. Again, they're not like the highest rated PS2 games or anything like that. They're games that we both played, that we both really enjoyed on PlayStation 2. Like I stated earlier, Alex has more PlayStation 2 experience than I do. I had multiple consoles, so I was always juggling games. So I didn't really have time to put in as much time as he did with the good games like Silent Hill, Okami, stuff like that. I also shared every single console I had with 4 other people, so it was really hard to get in PlayStation 2 games, so that's why I kind of drifted more toward like Nintendo games. Look at this bonus.
Yeah, so thanks for checking it out. Again, this is a video that I was pretty excited to do because PS2 is just my favorite console. So it was a fun video to come up with. So like, comment, subscribe if you like the video, and be on the lookout for our new videos. Should be coming soon.